Well, it's Friday morning. The rain is thrumming down outside, but we have the treat of going to Donegal, which of course is sunshine, and Pat McArt. How are you, Pat?
Well, grand, Jude, morning. Good morning. That's actually it's nice to hear. There's no
Is
sign of
it
rain.
really? I
No,
was always being
no,
facetious
it's
there.
actually quite and there's well, I wouldn't say sunshine in the sky. We're pushing it, but there's light in the sky. But the only thing about it, it's quite cool. So, are we getting the beast from the east?
We're going to have snow next week, they say. So,
Apparently so. Yeah.
aye,
So,
aye. Well, sure, this is winter. This is winter. Things will get
yes,
better, Pat. Things will get better.
absolutely.
Okay, let's look at a few things that have been going wrong, though,
Yeah.
for our topics for today. Again, drawn from they're in all the papers. This
Mm.
whole question of the fallout from the Article 16 debacle, which of course started with the EU making this
Yeah.
threat that they were going to stop vaccines leaving the EU, that is to
Yeah.
say, crossing the border into the Northern Ireland. And
Yeah.
the rest is history, as it were. Do you want to keep
Yeah.
us up to speed or bring us up to speed with that, Pat?
Well, Jude, it was a massive mistake. Like it took 4 years to get this bloody agreement, and almost one stupid weekend. Talk about giving succor to your enemies. The EU did a brilliant job of doing it. Now it was quickly rectified and never was put into operation. But the very fact that that it was flagged up has now given the DUP and its allies in the ERG group and whatever the Brexiteer group in England and mainly England. I was going to say Britain, but it is mainly England. Uh, Giving them all the succor they need now to try and sort of unpick this agreement one more time. Now, the thing about it is, Jude, I don't think it's going to work. But having said that, there does seem to be a major problem with how the not Article 16, but the withdrawal agreement is working. Uh, they're saying a lot of the British companies don't seem to know how to fill in the forms, that they're not interested in filling in the forms, that they makes the wrong customs forms. They present them to the customs officials. So there's all sorts of shenanigans going on. And there's things like seeds, second-hand cars. I can't even remember what's going on. Maybe if they could get all that smoothed out. But let's get this clear, Jude. No matter what, for the DUP, it won't be enough anyway. This whole issue about a border in the Irish Sea, the customs union, that's what it's about. Doesn't matter if it's free-flowing goods and there wasn't a problem. The whole issue is down to this thing, symbolically, that they are going to be treated different. And the EU could do everything in its power. And in fact, see tomorrow morning, if it was as smooth as a slipstream of a sort of a Grand Prix car, it wouldn't matter. I think the issue would still be there. And, this is a sort of a smokescreen to raise a bigger issue.
Well, Arlene, of course, leaped on it once
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
EU made this move or talked about it and then said, oh, no, we've changed our minds. It was as if they'd done it. She jumped on
Yeah,
it immediately and started talking about the trade between GB and NEI. She invoked also the shadow of the gunman.
yeah,
There was these walls that were painted with the Irish border. There'll be no Irish
yeah,
sea border and so on.
yeah.
Jonathan Powell was on Nolan this morning. I didn't hear it, but my wife was telling me.
Um,
She says that Jonathan Powell was making the point that Johnson and the Tories will want to diverge as markedly as possible from EU regulations. Right? I
absolutely.
want to make a distinction because that was the whole point of Brexit.
Yeah,
But because of the way things are set up, that cannot be translated as meaning that the North will diverge as much as possible. The North will have to stay right where it is.
yeah.
So, in fact, the more Brexit is implemented in England, the more the North becomes a unit, an all-Ireland unit,
A
and
place
linked
apart.
to the
Yeah,
EU, which
yeah.
I think is kind of wonderful, really.
No, but you think about it, the DUP, they brought 95% of this on themselves. The arrogance. Remember, what do you call her? Arlene saying to Boris Johnson, a British Prime Minister, I know about putting him on the naughty step. That was when they were in their pomp. They were absolutely arrogant beyond belief. They thought they had the whip hand, and now they don't. And it's very hard to have sympathy for the DUP. I think it was Stephen Collins
I
from
have
Irish
sympathy for
Times.
them, Pat. I have
Have
sympathy
you?
for them. I have, because actually their reading of it, I think, is right. They
Well,
read the Irish sea border as sort of setting them on the road to United Ireland. And I would tend to agree. Certainly economically, they'd be looking more and more to Dublin and the EU if things
Yeah.
continue as they are. And, we know that economics is followed by politics.
Yeah, well, right, okay, I'll take your point. I certainly agree, but to claim this is this is basically United Ireland. Jude, the constitutional position hasn't changed until the day and hour that the people of Northern Ireland vote to leave the UK. The constitutional position hasn't changed. How that comes about is a different thing. This is about trade, and it's about single market, and it's about all the rest. So I don't see how that actually changes a while until the day people leave the UK and vote for that. The constitutional position hasn't changed one iota.
Well, that's true. That's true, Pat. Mind you, every time that Arlene raises her voice in a squawk of indignation and outrage, and they won't speak to the South anymore about the protocol, every word of that is adding more and more fuel.
Absolutely.
North and South.
Jude, they have handed Stephen Collins this morning, as I started to hear this morning, saying they have messed up at every turn. They have seriously, and they've alienated. The only thing that's in their favour, Jude, I would presume, is Boris is in a rock and a hard place in regard to the union. He's got the ERG group, and there are unionists. There's the old colonels and the old fogies. Oh, the union is more important. So if Northern Ireland drifts off away from the Irish Sea, the next place could be Scotland, and then the whole thing becomes an issue. But Jude, Boris said this week that he would unilaterally invoke Article 16 if needs be to suit the people, the DUP. That's really what he said. But he better, it's geopolitical these days. If he does that, just watch Biden's people in Washington. The days of getting a free pass from Trump are gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that thing about the Scots, that the ERG will be worrying that the North might set, or the way the North is drifting might set a pattern for Scotland. I would see it the other way around. Scotland don't really mind what we do. Scotland are intent on going for independence, or certainly the National Party.
If the SNP gets over 50% in the forthcoming elections, the game's on.
Would they be allowed to get it, I wonder, with 50% plus one?
Well, it's a simple majority. Me and you had this argument about the last 8. The Good Friday Agreement says it's a simple majority. Absolutely. It's not a weighted majority, and it's not a 2/3 majority or whatever other majority. It's a simple majority.
That's right. That's what I said in the letter to the Irish Times this week, which they didn't print.
Another one.
But I thought the gunman was a bit sinister and almost predictable. Traditionally, when unionism feels that things are going against it, suddenly the looming possibility of loyalist violence is raised. And
Jude, can I stop you here 1 minute? Jude, how come the UVF and the UDA are still in existence? Well, can you imagine for a second if Michelle O'Neill, or what do you call him, Murphy, or anybody, or Big John Dowd, said anything about the IRA, and suddenly men start marching the street? How come the DUP can make these comments, and then suddenly there's guys walking with masks, and not about to say the RUC, yes, and I sit and watch them, and nothing done, and you sort of go, wait a minute. And there was a funeral, and PS and I watched in East Belfast quite recently, which paid no attention to the COVID rules and zero publicity about it. So go on, tell me how this works.
I think there's a great irony attached to that group of marching men with masks. In fact, those guys were, I think, UVF. And where were they going? They were going to the home of a former UVF man that they had killed about a year ago. And the family apparently were kicking up ructions about it, as you might understandably do. And they were going to attack the home, and the family had to flee, as they say, to a soup kitchen or somewhere. So, in fact, it wasn't marching men coming out to support Arlene, or this notion of an Irish sea border. It was UVF men intent on their own internecine.
But the point, you haven't answered the point I made. How come the UVF are still allowed to exist?
I agree with you completely on that. It really does astonish me. I suppose it's this notion. Well, you see, if you were a dyed in the wool unionist, you would probably say the IRA still exists, and they control their
The IRA, Jude,
people
hold on,
controlling
Jude.
Sinn Féin.
The IRA is not marching on the street. They're not out with masks on. They're not out with no sort of black uniforms on them. They have long disappeared. And you talk to anybody in Derry or anywhere else, the IRA is an organisation. They might be old IRA men in existence, but there's no organisation, and they are not marching, and they are not doing anything.
The answer to that your unionist would give is, oh yeah, but they haven't got the guts to march. They haven't got the guts to wear a uniform.
Come on, they fought a war against one of the biggest armies in the world for 30 years. Give us a break.
They lurk in the shadows and cowardly attacks. So that would be the line they take. And I would say an awful lot of unionists and quite a few of the Dublin Four, or if you like, your Dublin unionists, believe that. They believe that Sinn Féin, the political party, is being controlled by this shadowy group.
I've heard that so often. It's absolute rubbish, and it's the proof of the pudding. They have an Ardèche where the policies are agreed, and they follow those policies. That's democratic. The same. And by the way, I keep hearing about these sort of shadowy figures in the background. It's like, has anybody ever watched the DUP? Anyway, go ahead. We've been down this road before.
Okay, well, maybe we've flogged that poor creature to death. It really was a very... one thing that still puzzles me is, why did the EU say what they said? They essentially said, like, I can understand their anxiety not to allow vaccines to leave the EU because they were not doing very well in terms of vaccinating people, and they wanted to be as good as possible. I can understand their anxiety, but to think of it in terms of stuff going from the south of Ireland to the north, bad. I mean,
Jude, hey, there's probably some German or French official who has no concept of what they were doing. What they saw was, hey, we can invoke a trade thing to stop drugs leaving the EU, but going in the back door through the Republic of Ireland into Northern Ireland into Britain. And it seemed, oh, what a good wheeze. But it's lack of experience, the consequences of something like that in Irish politics.
Well, I suppose in one way I would kind of commend them, and at least that the vast majority of they very quickly reversed it. And I think there'd be a lot of EU people who would say that was a bad mistake.
They didn't see it. I don't think they saw it in political terms. They saw it in terms of trade. Basically, we're going to stop this.
Yeah. Somebody said that if Phil Hogan had still been in the position he was as commissioner, that would never have happened. I suspect they're right.
I would suspect that Phil was there are many things about Phil, but he was a very canny operator.
He was a bruiser, and there was nobody's fool.
Absolutely.
Sure. Okay, God bless.
God bless them all.
Saint Phil Hogan.
Yeah.
Right. The second item now is really quite difficult one in a way. Should the Taoiseach be setting an example? Because the Taoiseach has talked about going, or has been people talking about him going to St. Patrick's Day in the US for the proverbial bowl of shamrocks to be presented. Thank God, I can hardly believe it. I was going to say to Trump, but thank God to Biden. But people are saying that maybe that's not a good idea, because are we going to say he's going to travel, but the rest of us will be stuck, within 5 kilometers of each other?
Yeah. Jude, he hasn't taken it off the table, which means, it suggests to me that this hey, Jude, for the ultimate, Martin will have 2 years as Taoiseach, and then it's a rotating Taoiseach under this agreement. I don't know how it's going to work out, but the bottom line of it is, what I presume he's going to do is, he'll until the last month, he will want to go to the United States. The big opportunity for any Taoiseach is sitting in the Oval Office with his bowl of shamrocks or up on Capitol Hill. It looks great for them. It's a photo opportunity for a lifetime. He'll have it on his desk, and his grandchildren will see it. And that was my father with President Biden and the White House. And it's for Irish America, it's the photo opportunity of a political lifetime, and that's every Taoiseach wants it. It's Ireland's day. They say no other nation in the world gets a full day of the President of America, and they all love it, and it's great stuff. And sure, see over the years, every wee town and village in the Republic of Ireland sent somebody out to Boston or Philadelphia or to Florida or Cincinnati or you name it, Pittsburgh, and there'll be somebody gonna, like Donegal, where I'm from. Every year, the chairperson of the county council, like Earlock, goes off to someplace, and now there are those who say
public money.
Of course, that's a junket. But then the other one said, "Hey, wait a minute. Our biggest 28% of our exports go to America, American firms contribute more to the Irish economy than any other, and they said it's money well spent. So you
So
can
are these
argue
guys going out there and making a case for increased trade? Or are they going out there and
that's
saying,
exactly.
pass that
They
bottle,
said
would
it's
you? Pass that bottle and
uh,
have another drink.
so absolutely. They're saying it's nebulous and ephemeral. You can't put it down, but it's all based on goodwill. Oh God, that's great. And I'm just taking the wife and three wains with me.
Well, you know, I don't know how you feel about that bowl of shamrocks. I'll tell you how I feel. I feel slightly embarrassed. I think it's a
Uh,
wee bit naff. You know, here he has
uh,
a big bowl of shamrocks and he
uh,
solemnly hands it to him and the guy gives it to somebody else and you can see he'll never look at it again.
uh, uh,
I think it's a bit of an opportunity lost, frankly. All right,
uh,
if you really want to have a bowl of shamrocks somewhere, but why don't they build it around somebody really distinguished giving a short talk
uh,
on Ireland and America and the opportunities
uh,
at present? Wouldn't that make a lot
uh,
more sense than just
uh,
simply you
it is
pass the bowl?
it is a wee bit of paddy whackery in a sense, but I also share a story, Jude. You know, it is a good old thing for, hey, Jude, the old Americans. Hey, I was in America as a student. It was 1972, and Jesus, hey, they loved Ireland. Even people who weren't Irish. I remember, oh, I just love your accent. You know, all that sort of stuff. Jesus, I was going, good merciful, whatever. You know, and you're sitting there, and you know, I remember the minute they found out you were Irish, doors open. I remember going down to a post office and there was a woman, excuse me, where are you from? And all this sort of stuff. Oh, good God, Jude. And no, it opened doors, you know.
That's right.
You know, the biggest day in America
Yeah,
is
yeah,
St. Patrick's Day,
I agree. I
other than
agree.
Thanksgiving, sorry.
Yeah, we should nurture it, and I wouldn't for a moment say that it's bad that you should have the shamrocks, but I just think there's an opportunity for something far more intelligent, really, as
Yeah,
well. As
I
well,
do agree
you
with
know,
that.
why not do some? I mean, if he was going out on St. Patrick's Day, why not get him to say something about Ireland EU relationships
Yeah,
as well as Irish American, or
yeah,
the notion of Irish Americans being active in one particular area.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there's so many opportunities, and it wouldn't have to
yeah,
go on for long. Just 10-minute talk, and you
yeah,
even could have really some famous Irish American delivering it.
yeah. Well, you see that this time, Jude, what they could do, rather than the Taoiseach going out there, symbolically, they could ask somebody, a prominent Irish American, to present the bowl of shamrocks. So, in other words, we don't lose the opportunity, but symbolically as well, we don't. The Taoiseach can't ask the rest of the country to do something he's not prepared to do himself. Stay within the 5K limit.
good idea. I think he won't. I think he'll stay where he is. Actually, when the
I
crunch
think he
comes to the
will too.
crunch.
But Jude, the reason I pointed out that he has not taken it off the table yet, and I think he should.
Well, it does look at me. He's sort of revealing his hand. He's dying to be there, but he
Uh,
figures he just mightn't get. Uh,
yeah, exactly.
so I think Pat. Well, I'm trying to think through this idea of a short and pointed talk. I think, well, why not somebody like yourself? You could do it by Zoom even, or better
Sure,
still,
yeah.
after
But you'd have to
next year
hang
you
on.
could
I would
go
have to
out.
put on a shirt. I would have to put on like yourself. I'd have to put on a shirt and tie. And after I left me last life, you know, when I was out of the journal for about 25 years, one morning I got up and said, I don't have to put on a shirt and tie today, and I've never put on a shirt and tie since. Oh, I,
Oh,
all I'm going to win.
well, you could always apply to the Donegal County Council to fund
That's
you
all
to actually go there next year.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'd carry your luggage.
Shamrock and the entourage.
Okay.
Yes.
Finally, then, our last topic for today, and again, all of these are in all of the papers and the TV websites, is racism on the rise in
What's your
Ireland,
opinion on that, Jude?
North
By the
and
way,
South?
just before,
Well,
rather than me answering first,
my view is it never went away. I think we're
what
a
do you mean by that?
deeply racist people. I mean, I'll give you one quick example. There's a guy, a guest blogger on my site today who put it up before this, who's talking
Yeah.
about the killing of that guy, George Nkenko, young
Uh,
22-year-old Nigerian who was shot
yeah,
dead by the police, by the Gardaí.
yeah, yeah,
He asked the question, if that had been a white guy, would they have shot him dead? Um,
yeah,
I think that, let's face it, racism is, I think it's everywhere. I think it's
uh,
certainly in England. I
yeah,
think I told you this before. That I have a brother, not a brother-in-law. My niece is married to a black guy from
yeah,
Nigeria. No,
uh,
is it Nigeria? No, somewhere like that. And
yeah,
he's a barrister, and he says from top to bottom,
Yeah.
the British society is racist. I mean, here's a test for you, Pat. I mean, just here's a little conversation piece, right?
Yeah.
Between daughter and mother. And the daughter says, I'd like you, I'm going to bring round my new boyfriend on Friday
Mm,
night. Is that okay? And the mother
mm,
says, oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah,
yeah.
lovely. A nice guy. Is he nice? Oh, yeah, really, really nice. So this is getting serious. Yeah, yeah. I said, oh, well, that's terrific. Bring him round. What time? About 7 o'clock? Okay. And the daughter's gone up to her room and then she says, oh, by the way, he's black.
I knew you were going to say,
You
hey,
know,
by the way, I
that
think
would be a bombshell in the middle of everything.
absolutely. By the way, I think the premise of what you're just after saying was made into a film called "Guess Who's Coming to Dinner." I wasn't in Sydney Putty or someone started that. And
Yeah.
Spencer Tracy way back in the day. Jude, you're dead right. Of course you won. My brother emigrated to England years and years ago. Now he came back, but he says he was going out, I think, with a black girl for a while, and he says he had this idea, and he said he was going to say to me mother one day, Mum, here's Mary O'Donnell, and then walk in with this black girl. My mother would probably faint. Hey, we were brought up in a monoculture society and all. Do you know the reason why I'm interested in this is yesterday there was a young fella from Tralee, County Kerry, an 18-year-old. He was given the probation act. He sent absolutely vile racist comments to the footballer, Ian Wright, or the former footballer. And it was like, what possible motivation was an 18-year-old? Well, I think he was 17 when he wrote them, but what possible 18-year-old, should have done this, Jude? And Tralee, it's hardly the metropolitan area of Brooklyn or the Bronx or whatever. It's a mainly white society. What motivation would anybody have for doing that? You sort of go. There's a young fellow on with Tommy Tiernan there quite recently who spent 4 years in Letterkenny. He said that the people I think he's from originally somewhere like Dundalk, but he said everybody says, "Where are you from?" And he says Dundalk. He says, "No, where are you really from?" I think he was born in Dundalk and all. And so he says that right away. He says, "There, it's been set up. The color of his skin marks him out as different. So, you must be somewhere from Africa." And by the way, that seems to be the tone of most of the questions that are addressed to him.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be like asking, if you stop to think about it, asking Obama, where are you really from?
Where are you from? Well,
the birther thing.
Trump actually got a political career out of it.
I was on a sort of a Zoom book club yesterday, and the book we were doing was Saturday Night and Sunday Morning by Alan Sillitoe. And that book, I think, is a wonderful book. But in it, there's a black guy appears for about 50 pages. A guy who is visiting the town, and he's in the family. And I made the point that I thought that the way the family kind of embraced him, working class family in the late 50s in England, the way they embraced him, and they were taken with the fact that he was a Zulu, they made the odd complimentary remark, but they really loved him, and were not loved him, but they were terribly interested in him and treated him as a human being. And I said that rang false for me. I didn't think that. I thought, and I cited the fact that when I was in England, and I went to football matches occasionally, I heard what you didn't hear on Match for the Day. I heard the racist chants.
The banana
Nottingham
chants,
Forest,
chants,
for example, was on the rise then. And Nottingham is the setting for Saturday night and Sunday morning, as it happens. And I mean, it was shocking. And it's still going on, I understand.
Des Walker played
this is the point. They said, the rest of the book club said, well, when people get into a crowd, they sometimes get caught up in a kind of a fever, and bad stuff comes out. Maybe
the mob
that's
mentality.
the same thing with social media. Maybe that's the thing. It has an anonymity, and you'll say things. People will say stuff they wouldn't say in real life. You think?
The keyboard warrior mentality, and there is a safe anonymity. I remember coming across that expression years ago. I think it might have been even when I was in secondary school, about the people who can send anonymous letters. They'll say things that they would not say if you were face to face. Anonymity is a very safe thing. No, but there's been numerous incidents, quite like, for instance, by the way, there's an understanding too. I think not an understanding, but when I grew up in Letterkenny, back to this one, I grew up in Letterkenny in the 60s. It was a small town. It was the idea of difference in Letterkenny was Catholic and Protestant. That's a fact. But we were all white, we were all Christian, and the only difference was we went to different churches, and our belief systems were basically the same, minor, whatever. But I see, we walk down the street in Letterkenny now. Every second person you will meet would be of no non sort of native. Uh, there's a massive difference now. A lot of Asian people, a lot of African people, a lot of Eastern Europeans. No, I welcome it. I think it's great. I
Mm,
genuinely do. I'm all in
mm,
favor of it, Jude.
mm.
I think diversity enhances us rather than diminishes us.
Oh,
So
right.
I have, and by the way, like I formed the view, if you're Polish and you're a bollocks, you're still a bollocks. And if you're Irish and a nice fella, and vice versa. It's nothing to do with where you're from. A decent person's a decent person.
I couldn't agree with you
That's a
more.
view that's a view I hold.
I'd even take it further than that. A dull person is a dull person,
Aye.
regardless of race or skin color. And there was a point I was going to make there about that. I'm trying to. Oh yes, whenever there's an influx of immigrants, whether they're
Yeah.
refugees or whether they're economic refugees or whatever, um,
Uh,
the Irish government invariably, I mean the South of Ireland government, not really the
mm,
Irish government, the South of
yeah.
Ireland government, they make a point and they reassure people by spreading these out throughout the country. If it's a
Yeah.
big group, like a couple of hundred or something, they
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
deliberately spread them throughout the country. Now,
Yeah.
you could take one view on that, which says they do that because they want them to be integrated with the communities
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
go to. The other view you could take was, well, they're a kind of an imposition on us. They're not like
Mm,
us, so let's
mm.
spread them out so we don't sort of notice them so much.
Yeah.
What do
Well,
you think?
yeah. Well, I take your point because you could argue it from that point of view. Now, I think the strategy is the point that they're trying to sort of spread everybody out equally rather than getting in the big influx. And they don't. I presume there's also say they don't want ghettos. 600
Oh,
people
yeah,
from living in one. But where's
yeah,
it?
but Pat, and if you go to New York, sorry, my seat's falling here.
Uh,
If you go to New York or any other
yeah.
place for that matter, you'll see this is historically that was the Irish Quarter, that was the Italian
Yeah.
Quarter. People,
Yeah.
when they're abroad, tend to cling together for security.
Absolutely.
Not,
Yeah.
I don't mean simple physical security. I just mean this is emotional
Yeah.
security
Yeah.
of people like yourself. And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they're not Americans. It doesn't mean that they're not Irish or they're not whatever.
Yeah.
It just means that they like being with people that they know.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that's ignored, sort of,
Mm,
whenever.
yeah.
Do you think of how much lonelier those people must feel when only maybe 3 families or 4 families get to move into a town or a village?
Absolutely. Can you imagine being sent up to a family from, say, Nigeria or Kenya or Poland, being set up? Well, it wouldn't be so much Poland. Well, it could be. No, that'd be EU travel. But say outside the EU and they come in here seeking asylum, Syrians. I know quite a few Syrians. Nicest people. You're falling off
I
actually.
know, I am. This place shares gone on the blink. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Go on, keep talking, Pat.
I can't. Yeah, no, but imagine there was supposed to be one of these centres set up in Moville. Can you imagine Moville, wee small village, on a winter's day with the wind howling, and there's no swimming pool, there's no soccer pitch, there's no nothing, and you're from Syria and you can't speak the language. What and under God would you send somebody up to Moville? Moville's beautiful, and the people are the nicest you could meet. But that's not the point I'm making. I'm saying if you're from Syria and you're totally isolated in a small community with nothing to do all day, and they give you €20 a week. Now,
Mm,
go
mm.
on, explain where's the humanity in that?
But think how much, well, at least to a degree, how that would be sort of padded or they would feel comforted by the fact that they could go up the street and visit another family from Syria
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
couple of families from Syria, or
yeah,
that they could have a meal out with 3 or 4 of them
yeah,
or whatever,
yeah, yeah,
I just think this notion that we'll separate them because if they're all together, they might be a threat or I don't know.
uh,
It'd be too much.
uh,
It's sort of like as if they're something very hard to digest, you know,
mm,
and
yeah,
therefore we'll give it to Irish communities in spoonfuls and they'll be
yeah.
able to throw that.
Well, I suppose we should wrap up, but I suppose the other side of the story, we are an old nation and we're an old culture, we're an old people have settled in places like I use Mavoldic. I'm sure there's families go back there generations, where things were not changed and unchanging. Suddenly now the modern world, the global world has come in, and people well, it probably does, in fairness, take time for people to adjust. You know, as we started earlier, almost a joke if somebody landed home, be it was a black person. Uh, maybe after a while. I remember two guys in Australia. There were a lot of Vietnamese had emigrated to the Melbourne area, and I remember this guy saying to me, "You know something?" He says, "See, there's real problems with the Vietnamese in the Melbourne and Sydney area." But he says, "Know what'll happen?" He says, "See, once young Gary, whatever, marries whatever, the wee Vietnamese girl, and they come brings her home, and suddenly they have a couple of kids, and mummy and daddy, who were the white racists, suddenly go, aren't those kids beautiful?" He says, it takes time. He says for things to evolve, and hopefully he meant it in a good way. He was confident that and see, when the first black guy scores a winning goal for Donegal in the All Ireland final, nobody's going to give a monkeys whether he's black or not. They'll just love him.
Well, I just end with this personal note. My son is married to a woman who is half Japanese. And in fact, their mother's with them at present, and she's fully Japanese. And I just think that, and they have a son, and he's called Jude Collins, so he's quarter Japanese. So that's sort of by proxy. That
is the future, Jude. That's the road we're heading.
Okay, Pat. Good stuff.
All the best, Jude.
Good luck. All the best.
And you.
Yeah.